Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So I just watched Never Have I Ever season 4. Let's talk about it. So Never Have I Ever was created by Mindy Kaling and Lang Fisher, and its fourth and final season marks the end of the main character Devi's high school journey. Now this series has been one of my favorite teen dramedy series that Netflix has ever come out with. It was extremely popular and praised because of its focus on this Indian American girl. The series has always made a point to explore Indian culture and also highlight the life of someone who comes from an immigrant family. On top of that, the character of Devi has captured all of our hearts with her complex, sometimes less than likable nature. But she's such a captivating character and we've really come to know and love her. And so I was really sad to see the end of her journey, at least for now, in this fourth and final season of the show. So I'm going to be diving into my thoughts on season 4 of Never Have I Ever. I have also done reviews for seasons 1 and 2 if you want to hear my thoughts on the previous seasons, so you can go ahead and check those out on my channel. And of course, as per usual, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and make sure you turn on your notifications so that you can be told when I upload next. Now without further ado guys, let's get into Devi's last hurrah. So first of all, when it comes to the plot of season 4, we pick up right where we left off in season 3, where Devi and Ben have sex for the first time, and it turns out that they've both lost their virginity to each other, but the aftermath of this is a little bit rocky. It's a little bit awkward. Okay, this isn't like the flirty cute aftermath that we thought we were going to get. Like, no, they're a little bit awkward towards each other and they clearly have feelings for one another, but they're not able to communicate that. I mean, what's new? We've known these people for 3 seasons now. We've known these people for 3 seasons. Like, none of us expected any better, unfortunately, from either of them. But yeah, that awkwardness continues until Ben actually ends up dating someone else even, and Devi kind of gives up on the idea of them being together, and so she starts to pursue this other guy who turns out to be like the bad boy who doesn't really care and ends up stealing someone's purse. Like, she goes down a dark path, okay? But in the end, you know, Ben and Devi manage to find themselves together once again, and they end up being the end game of the show, the end game couple, which I really liked. I think ultimately when it came to the Paxton versus Ben storyline throughout this series, it became clearer and clearer that Ben was the better option for Devi, so I was really rooting for them by the end there. And I think they did such a good job of making the end game so like sweet and romantic and adorable. I was really rooting for them. I was really rooting for them. You know, the show has done a really good job of not only developing the character of Devi, which we'll talk about in a second, but also the character of Ben, because he's also gone through quite a bit of growth throughout these seasons. We didn't get the signature Andy Samberg episode though this season. We usually get one with Andy Samberg doing a voiceover for Ben's kind of storyline, but we didn't actually get that this time around, which is unfortunate. But yeah, he's also gone through some growth throughout the seasons, and we love to see it. And I think by the end of the series, when they got together, it really felt like warranted. Like, it felt like we had earned this. Okay, so sorry for you Paxton fans. I think Paxton's storyline made sense for him as well. It wasn't the most exciting, but I do think it made sense for the character. Like, everything kind of fit into place really well. Even though I was quite invested in the love triangle between Paxton and Ben throughout the series, what I loved about this show in particular is that it didn't just focus on the, you know, teen love story that we see time and time again. It actually gave us some, you know, special little storylines that were unique to Devi. For instance, she of course lost her father during freshman year of high school, right when she started, and that was a really traumatic experience for her that led to her having a lot of, you know, behavioral issues, some outbursts of anger. She was just a different kind of teen protagonist to what we usually see, especially in female characters. And I really loved that about the character, even though it led to her making some questionable decisions that were often really annoying. But I think it made sense for the character. And I think, like I said, it made her so unique in the landscape of teen dramedies. And so I was really invested in her story and in her growth throughout the seasons. And season 4 is no different. We continue to see Devi making stupid decisions, like going out with that guy who's like clearly not right for her. Okay, clearly not right for her. And also lying about getting into all of the colleges. Like, you know, she still makes dumb decisions like that, but we see throughout the seasons that she's able to recover much more quickly. Like before, when she would make mistakes like this, it would drag on for the whole season, and then she'd be umming and ahhing, and then at the very end she'd be able to fix things. Whereas now she's able to, you know, recognize when she makes a mistake and apologize to the people that's, you know, closest to her and rectify the matters like far more quickly, which again speaks to her growth as a character. So I think it's consistent with her journey throughout the show. And when it came to the death of her father's storyline, I think it played less of a role for her socially, and also in terms of her relationship with her mother and with the world around her. And I think that makes sense, because as time's going on, she's able to continue living her life the way that he would have wanted, without being, you know, too kind of traumatized by what happened. So I think that just speaks to the healing that she's done. But one aspect of her life that her father definitely hangs over her for is through her college applications. You know, right now she's doing college applications at the beginning of senior year, and she's hoping to get into her dream school, which was Princeton. And I find it so funny how, you know, her and her dad were talking about Princeton because it sounds like princess, and, you know, that's a princess school, so that's where you should go. It seemed like such a nonchalant thing, like just an offhanded comment. And I'm sure if he was there, he'd be like, you don't have to go to Princeton just because we, you know, made that story up. But because it's such a fond memory that she's attached to him, she wants to fulfill that journey. She wants to fulfill that happy ending that they dreamt up when she was younger. And again, that's another aspect of the character that I've always appreciated. You know, there are so many teen dramedies, teen dramas, teen tragedies out there where the teenagers are going to school and it doesn't even look like they're picking up a single book. Like like, when was the last time I saw Elena Gilbert pick up a book? Like, for so many of these teen dramas, the high school is just a backdrop. Like, the high school is just a meeting place for all these teenagers to hang out during the day. I don't see nary an exam, nary a parents' evening. Like, and so what I've always liked about Never Have I Ever is that the characters were actually academic and actually cared about their, you know, school grades and also their prospects for the future. I actually liked that. Like, they were kind of nerds. Like, I love that. It's such a change. And so you have Devi here, who's hoping to get into her dream school, Princeton, and she's done everything. Oh my god, sis has done all of the AP classes, sis has done all of the extracurriculars. Like, she's really out here trying, and she wants it so badly that she almost fumbles the bag, but then in the end she doesn't get the happily ever after that she wanted initially, because they give her, what was it? Before they put her on the wait list, they defer her application. Yeah, they defer her application, which is like, oh my god, please. Just tell me my fate now. Like, I remember those days applying for unis. These unis are trifling. Anyway, but you'll be bending over backwards just so you can go to university and then have to study there. Like, it's not like a holiday or anything. It's not a prize. It's literally, you have to apply and you have to do all this extra stuff only to end up going to that university and then just struggling through more work, whatever. It never ends. Anyway, Devi's application ends up initially getting deferred, which is just like killer. It's just brutal, and she's so upset. I will say I really liked how they tackled the, you know, college application storyline. I thought it was so relatable. I thought it was so realistic, and I'm sure there are a ton of teenagers out there watching this, either who can relate to the process because they're going through it right now, or perhaps because they've already gone through it. But either way, showing this kind of range of outcomes across different students that can happen during this really stressful time is just so valuable. So the fact that Devi's journey to getting into her dream college was a little bit complicated, she did have a bit of a bumpy ride, I think was really, really great. And also the fact that her friends, you know, all had different outcomes of their own and different prospects of their own. Like Ben, he got into his school, you know, first time around during the early application process, he was fine. And then he starts slacking because he got a bit too comfortable. He got a bit too comfortable. And he's like, I already got my place. Listening to Trent. No one should be listening to Trent. When that school counselor told him, like when she was like, you got your advice from Trent, you got some academic advice from Trent, sir. And then Ben's just like, oh my God, what have I done? And he has to like quickly catch up. But yeah, you know, that was a different outcome. And then you have Fabiola, whose mum pressures her into applying to an Ivy League, and she really wants to go to Howard. And so, you know, there's a bit of conflict there. But she manages to get into Princeton, despite the fact that she's not overly passionate about the school. And obviously that's a huge gut punch to Devi, because that's literally her dream school. And she's tried everything to get in there, and she ends up getting a deferred application. So there's a bit of conflict there. And again, it's so realistic because, you know, the idea that Devi would feel this ownership over the school to the point where she'd be upset that someone else applied or her friend applied was so absurd. And I was so happy to see that she actually learned this. She realized it was crazy for her to react this way. But then there was the added fact of like, okay, well, maybe I will get into Princeton with this deferred application. And then we'll end up, you know, being besties in a dorm room. And then Fabiola's just like, yeah, but I really want to go to Howard still. Like, I don't know how passionate I am about Princeton. Then you have Eleanor, who dreams of going to an acting conservatory, only to really bomb her audition for Juilliard, and she has to change her plans, and she actually aims to go straight into the world of work right out of high school. So like I said, it's like all of these different outcomes for these characters that I think a lot of people can relate to, and can hopefully see that, you know, just because you don't follow a particular path that your school very much recommends, it doesn't mean that you're doomed for failure. You know, there are different ways to get to your happily ever after, and I think that's a wonderful message to have for a show like this. Another important aspect of Devi's character journey has always been her relationship with her mother, and we see that continue on in season 4, where we see how much, you know, that she's changed and matured since season 1, where she was really struggling with that relationship, but now she's become so much more open and accepting towards her mum. And it's not perfect. Sometimes they do have little arguments. For instance, when Devi lies to her mum about getting into all of the Ivy League unis, that was crazy. Okay, she knew she was wrong for that. But I did understand in that moment why she said that, because her mum started talking about how there were immigrants and she was nervous about moving from India. But then when they got there to see, you know, how Devi has become so successful and blah blah blah, it makes her so happy and it feels like it was worth it. And I was like, even I would have been like, damn, damn, this is so much pressure. Like, oh my God, how can I tell her the truth now? So yeah, I completely understood Devi in that moment when her mum started preaching this way. I was like, woo, it's really hot in here. Obviously, her mum found out the truth and she was really angry towards Devi. We didn't really get like a resolution to that. Things just kind of worked out when Devi got into Princeton. But then there was that next step of preparing for this new journey of going to college, and there's that, you know, moment where her mother realizes that she's been stricter with Devi and harsher on her because she is feeling kind of anxious and nervous about seeing her daughter go. And it's the grandma that points that out, you know, during her wedding, and I think it was a really touching sentiment, the idea that her mom was really nervous about her going off to college. And then, you know, Devi herself, despite the fact that she's always wanted to go to Princeton, this is her dream come true, she also had reservations and fears. Again, it's just such an authentic portrayal of this period in time during teenagers' lives, where you're going through this big change and it's really stressful. You do your best to get this outcome, and then even when it happens, you still have this kind of nervousness because it is such a huge step towards adulthood. Another major change that her mum went through this season was getting a boyfriend. She was, you know, dating Margot's father, her very attractive father. As soon as I saw that man in that principal's office, I was like, oh, something's going on here. Like, as soon as you see someone attractive on this show, you know something is up. But Margot's father ends up, really liking Devi's mum, and so they go out, despite the fact that Margot and Devi are enemies. So then they have to do a whole kind of parent trap, but not really, to pretend that they're friends, so that it won't stop their parents from seeing each other. And that was cute, like previously we saw Devi's mum try and date Common. Remember she was dating Common? Yeah, so she was dating Common for a minute, and Devi was very upset. She was like, why are you trying to erase the memory of dad? Like, why are you doing this? She wasn't ready to see her mum make those steps towards moving on. And again, the fact that she, encouraged her mum to date Margot's father this time around, just shows how much she's grown as a character and how much they've improved their relationship as mother and daughter. And another really important relationship that Devi has in the series is her relationship with her therapist, of course, who's portrayed by Niecy Nash. And I have to say, there was a really touching moment during one of the last therapy sessions that we see Devi in that really kind of brought this whole journey to full circle. And that's the session where Devi is really, really upset because she's been waitlisted by Princeton and rejected by all of the other Ivy Leagues that she applied to. She did not apply to any non-Ivy League schools, and so now she's kind of in a really difficult position, and she's going to have to wait until next year in order to apply to other schools. And so she's really upset. She feels like a failure. And then, Niecy Nash is just there, crying, saying, you are not a failure. Think of how far you've come. Like, yes, academics is really important to you, but this will come. This is just a bump in the road. But just think about your journey overall. You've come such a long way, and I'm really proud of you. I was like, yes, this is all of us, Devi. We're so proud of you, sis. Like, you've come so far. And like I said, it was just a moment that brought the whole journey full circle, seeing just how far Devi has come as a character. And I've always really liked that about the character as well, the fact that she did have a therapist and she committed to her therapy sessions, showing how it really helped her. I think that's a wonderful message to have out there. And of course, there's also Miss Warner, who's the careers advisor or college counselor at the school, and Devi has always had a great relationship with her as well, because she's been very serious about applying to Princeton. And even though she didn't listen to Miss Warner when she said she should apply to non-Ivy League schools, it's always been great to see how Devi was receptive to, knowledge and to wisdom from her elders as well. It just makes her more of a well-rounded character and a good example. So overall, I would say that Never Have I Ever has done a great job of realizing Devi's character arc across 4 seasons. I think she's really relatable, and she's really charismatic, and all of the kooky mistakes that she makes just makes the show even more entertaining and engaging. So I just really came to love and enjoy the character of Devi for all of her faults and flaws, and I'm really gonna miss her. Okay, she will be missed on the Netflix platform. Even still, if I had to be a bit nitpicky, I would say that there were a couple of storylines that I was less invested in. I do think Devi's attractive cousin Kamala did get the short end of the stick this season. She didn't really have much to do. She was pursuing this storyline where the grandma's boyfriend may have been cheating on the grandma, and that was cute, but it wasn't particularly interesting. We didn't even see her boyfriend, much this season until the very end. So yeah, it seemed like Kamala's storyline was a little bit of an afterthought. And also I do think that, Devi's friends also got the short end of the stick, especially Eleanor. I think Fabiola's storyline was interesting. First of all, trying to diversify the robotics club, and also the fact that her mum pushed her to apply to Ivy Leagues, including Princeton, and she felt like a traitor to her friend. And also her coming to realize that she really wanted to go to Howard regardless of what her mum said, and so that was ultimately the path that she chose. So that was interesting. But I think with Eleanor original story, it was a bit tricky because they were trying to harken back to, you know, the issues that she had with her mum. They felt a little bit rushed and incomplete. And finally, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Devi and Ethan love story situation that we got at the beginning of the season. I just thought it was a bit of a throwaway. Like, I know each season she has to have another love interest, but this one was like the weakest one. I just felt like because we were near the end that we should be focusing on wrapping up these storylines nicely as opposed to introducing new hurdles. But it ended up being a very quick thing and very casual and surface level. And he ended up being a thief. So like, yeah, we don't need to think about Ethan too much, okay? He was just a bump in the road. And of course, how could I complete this review without mentioning the incredible cast? I love this cast. I think they're so perfect. Oh my goodness. I think Maitreyi Ramakrishnan, apologies if I'm mispronouncing her name, but I thought she was the perfect protagonist for this series. What an icon, what a legend, okay? She of course portrays Devi Vishwakumar, and I thought she was such a charismatic lead. She's so likable, even in times when she's doing something crazy, again because it's Devi, okay? She has some crazy things on this show, but she's just such a likable actress, and she really nailed the personification of this character. But the entire cast was excellent here. They had such great on-screen chemistry together, and the teen characters actually felt like authentic teenagers. I mean, Netflix really nailed it with Never Have I Ever, and it's all thanks to the cast, the crew, and also Mindy Kaling and Lang Fisher. They really knocked it out of the park with this series. And even though not every single storyline was as engaging and investing as some of the others, it still made for a really consistently excellent show that I think will be even better upon rewatch. So with that being said, I'm going to be giving Never Have I Ever season 4 a 7.5 out of 10. And since this is the final season of the show, I'm going to give it an overall score of 8 out of 10. So that's it from me, guys. Now that I told you guys my thoughts on Never Have I Ever season 4, it's time for you guys to let me know what you thought of this latest season down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe to catch you videos coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.